Hey, Nerd Herd, Dynasty Nerds here, back again this week, talking Dynasty Fantasy Football as we inch closer to the Dynasty Fantasy Football playoffs. We have so much to talk about with injuries and players that might be able to help you during that stretch run.
And maybe some return players that are coming out of the blue.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to debate one of the top running backs this year. And is he really worth it long term?
Is he worth it first? Isn't he? Who's that player? Let's find out.
Ready, set, hut, hut. Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson, here, my fellow nerds, Matt O'Hara.
Hey, hey.
And Garrett Price.
I'm the idiot that didn't realize his headphones were plugged in just now.
Guys, I can't hear anything.
I was like,
I can't hear anything.
Is this thing on? Hello?
it was me.
It's you.
We're back with another Dynasty packed show here. We got a lot going into it as we inch our way towards the playoffs, which are right around the corner.
And we're actually back today. We've had like a month where we've been remote, not all three of us. Like we're actually back now.
Yeah, it feels good.
It
took
does.
a week off, and I took like a true week off where I was just like not doing anything for Dynasty. I went to the mountains. I have no idea what your guys' show is about because I didn't listen to it. So yeah, we're back. All three of us hopefully here for the remainder of the year because we don't do a show between Christmas and New Year's Eve. So we got a lot to cover from here until then. You know, trades, people we like, buy, sells, get you ready for the playoffs. Kind of be like playoff centric here a little bit for the next couple of weeks, and then we get into the offseason, essentially, which is
crazy
the important part. We'll do our way too early 23 rookie mock draft, and then all the fun shows until that. And then right around, late January, we start doing our rookie breakdowns?
I think we
February?
wait until February because it's usually right after the Senior Bowl, which is usually like mid-February.
Yeah, you're right. Mid-February we start.
So yeah, somewhere around there.
It's after Super Bowl and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I know when we were done there, dude, we're like, oh, we should have started a week earlier.
I think we always say that, and then we don't.
Yeah.
Maybe we really will this year.
Well, we should, and we just fill with a mock draft at the end because you can never do enough mock drafts for the people. It's literally what they crave. Like, give me another mock draft.
Because then the mock draft will change right away, like 3 days later.
I bet if we did mock draft on this show every week, and that's all we did. We're like Dynasty Nerds mock draft. Like people would just listen every week.
They probably would.
I wonder what our numbers would drop down to.
Still good enough.
6 listeners.
6 hardcore ADP people.
I love all 6 of you. Nerd Herd for life. So let's get into the show. Before we do, I got to tell you about our friends over at Prize Picks. I was just in New York. I was making mad Prize Picks picks. I think I made 6 parlays. I won 1 out of 6. A couple people, I won't say who, Saquon, really came back and bit me in the butt. So that didn't help.
The one we talked about on the air would have hit last week, Matt.
Oh, yeah?
The one we talked about on the air would have hit because we got the free one from Justin Jefferson.
Of course, right.
We got the over on Amon-Ra and the over on receiving yards from Rhamondre.
Nice.
So there we go.
Oh, thanks for the text.
Hey, you're the expert.
I could have won $200 because you put down 20 to win 200. But anyways, I got some picks this week that I feel really good about. I mean, my brother-in-law's gonna be in New York this week. I'm gonna have him put these picks in for me on Prize Picks, and this is what Prize Picks is. You know, like he mentioned, they do tons of fun things. Like on Thanksgiving, they had Justin Jefferson over 0.5 receiving yards. So
that hit.
Slam dunk.
It amazingly hit. So, you know, right now you get in there, you pick 2 to 5 players, you take the over under their projections. It's just you versus them, the computer, and you went up to 10 times your entry. It's just you versus the numbers. And it doesn't have to be just football. Like if you know a lot about golf, if you know a lot about basketball, college football, all these different sports, you can interchange all these parlays that you like. And if you use the promo code, which we encourage you to do, no matter what, if you're going to sign up, is use the promo code NERDS because obviously it helps us out and supports our sponsors. Use the promo code NERDS. They'll give you a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. And here are I have 5 because I like to do 5 because I go for the big bucks.
All right.
Here are my 5 Prize Picks of the week. Are you ready for them? Tell me what you think. I think these are all locks except for one. One's a maybe. I'll tell you the one's a maybe.
Okay.
Rhamondre Stevenson over 60.5 rushing yards against the Bills. The Bills currently are 20th against the fantasy football running back, so they're like middle of the road.
Yeah, and with Harris out,
they're going to run.
I think I would take the over on that too.
But what if it's a shootout and they get blown out? And
Could.
they can't run.
He's going to have a big run. Don't you worry about that.
I would much rather have
The receiving prop?
the over-under 0.5 touchdowns for Rhamondre Stevenson.
Ooh, that's a nice one, too.
Yeah, 0.5.
Another one I like Saquon Barkley, 70.5 rushing yards against Washington. I like the under. I think most of his points are coming from the passing game. Washington, the second best team against a running back right now. And they just got Chase Young back, so like a really good D line there.
Did they activate him?
They did activate him.
All right, cool.
Is he going to be sick again?
I think this week. So I like the under there.
Okay.
Nick Chubb, over
Of course.
90.5 rushing yards versus Houston. Houston's currently 29th right now against the fantasy football running back. So
Yeah,
I like the over
that one's
there.
a lock.
He might get that on the first run.
He might.
It might. It might. Plus Deshaun coming back. They want to work him in there. Garrett Wilson, over 53.5 receiving yards versus Minnesota. Minnesota right now, dead last when it comes to stopping the fantasy football receivers. Dead last. And the one I'm a little bit questionable about is, but I like it, Justin Herbert, over 275.5 passing yards versus Las Vegas. Las Vegas Raiders are currently 31st against the quarterback.
That could be a shootout.
It could be like last year's playoff game. Could have been a playoff game.
Almost
They would've
playoff
played
game,
the cards right. Got 5 quarters of football.
Get a tie.
I like JH on that. What do you think of those?
No, I mean those are all pretty good. That last one I think is the hard one to kind of nail down. It's a high number, but I think he could get there.
Mike Williams comes back this week.
Is
Palmer's
he
look good.
actually coming back?
Allegedly.
I mean, he came
need
back
him
last
for my
time
fantasy
for
lineups.
one play, and that was it. So
I've got a lot of Mike Williams shares.
so do I, man. So do I, and I'd love to be able to start him with some confidence. He's letting me down. I love him.
Check him out. Prize Picks, promo code NERDS. All right, let's get into some of these injuries before we kick off the show, too. Ready?
Yep.
Darnell Mooney, ankle, out for the year.
Out for the year.
Dunzo.
See ya.
Yeah, so it's like Chase Claypool, Equanimous, and Cole Kmet.
If they have a quarterback to even throw to him, because Justin Fields was out last week. Then they had the whole like Simeon. Wait, just kidding. No, it's Nathan Peterman. Wait, just kidding again.
Simeon.
Simeon.
Gotcha.
Like I think without officially saying it, I think they're like, we're good. We have the second pick right now. We're gonna pack it in.
I would.
Yes.
You're out of it. You know you have your quarterback of the future. You rest him. You get him healthy. Sit him down. Increase your draft pick. You have another. They have another draft pick too. Don't they have 2 firsts?
I
Could
don't
be
know
wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is the first time in a while
that they've had their own pick.
that they just have their own.
Yeah, dude. You get the number 2 overall pick. You can get probably get like Will Anderson.
Or trade back and get a haul.
Get a haul for somebody who wants that. Yeah, CJ Stroud or something like that.
Yeah.
And considering they just gave up their second round draft pick, which is going to be really, really high for Chase, that wouldn't be a bad option for them to move back probably.
Oh, I forgot to give. Oh, that's a good pick for the Steelers. Good thing they're using Chase a lot.
He'll get there.
He's getting acclimated.
Dude, what a bad trade.
I did hear that Claypool was talking about how much more complicated it was than the Steelers, which was surprising to me. But he was talking about how it's like a much more complex playbook than it was in Pittsburgh.
I mean, it's so complex they wouldn't let Justin Fields throw the football for 6 weeks.
Do you have it yet? Nah.
Figure out how to try to catch a pass if he doesn't throw it.
Dude, I'm still trying to get down all these handoffs, man. This is a lot. Wow. So Darnell Mooney out. I mean, on this show, like we've never been big on Darnell Mooney. We've always viewed him as like a wide receiver 3, even as a number 1 in Chicago. A nice player that's better to be a compliment. So that should take place here in 2023. But if you have Mooney, you're just sitting with Mooney. There's nothing.
Yeah, there's really nothing to do with it.
Najee Harris strained his abs.
Mm-hmm.
I've never strained abs because I don't have abs. The strain, so couldn't do that if I wanted to. But he's strained his, so
the worry,
to be determined.
Yeah, the worry here is obviously a hernia that could send him out for an extended period of time, maybe even the end of the year. So I think that's the concern here. That's something to keep an eye on. Obviously, Benny Snell is the guy that came in and was operating.
Because Warren's banged up as well.
Warren is the guy who was the number 2, and he's got a hamstring injury. Obviously, when he gets back, I'm sure he'll be the guy. He's much more explosive than a Benny Snell type. Benny Snell type. And even Anthony McFarland finally got in.
He actually looked pretty good.
He did look good.
He's explosive. I always have liked his speed. He's just always been a little undersized.
Always liked him, dude. Again, trying to get the outside. Like, remember when Farley came out of Maryland? We're like, dude, this is a guy in Pittsburgh. Like, once James Conner leaves, he can be the guy.
Too.
Yeah,
he's bulked up a little bit too. I don't know. I nothing will probably come of it, but it's fun for like all the deep bench Anthony McFarland I have.
Maryland has they always have some good athletes. You know what I mean? And there are some guys that pop on the test scores. Yeah. But it doesn't always translate to the football field. We'll see. We'll see if he gets a little opportunity, and it does. Maybe he looked good this past.
It's just nice to see him get some carries whatsoever.
Yeah. Are you looking to buy Najee Harris now with this news? He's been down most of this season, battling different injuries, hasn't performed as well as people had hoped, not getting the receiving volume that he got last year, but still a guy that is likely to be leading their team in targets and carries and all that at the running back position for the next 2-3 seasons. Looking to buy, what would you pay? Like, where are you at with Najee?
I've tried to buy Najee multiple times as his price dipped during the mid-season. He dipped. Yeah, I would pay a first for Najee, like definitely a mid to late first. I'd have no problem doing it. He's not young, but like you said, he's still the guy there for the next 3 years.
Right.
The tough part about this injury, though, is obviously you're not going to be able to use him much, or if at all.
At this point, it's almost
maybe. It depends on how this thing turns out. If it is a hernia,
and so that's the weird part is chances are it's probably more of rebuild teams that would target him, but then you're targeting a running back that's older, so it is kind of a weird situation.
I would wait to see if this news breaks that he is out for the year, because then I think that does put a slight dip in his value as well. And if I'm a contender, easily give up my
your late first
11th, 12th, because one, I'm a contender, I probably don't need him right now, but to have another starting running back that's going to get a majority of the carries in my back pocket for next year makes my team so much stronger. And the big thing too here is about Najee is, Kenny Pickett looked pretty damn good on Monday night. Like he
played well.
He's starting to put together a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
They boost that offensive line. Offensive line's been a little bit better. Cincinnati's offensive line's been better the second half of the year, but the offensive line gets a little bit better there. They have the weapons in the receiving game. They got the running back. They got the tight end. And as Kenny Pickett gets better, it takes less defenders out of the box for Najee, which opened the game. Because early in the season, it was so easy just to stack the box versus Mitch Trubisky. And then when they bring Kenny Pickett in, the same thing. So he shouldn't have a lot there. And he's already not the most efficient running back there is. He's a volume guy. So I'd easily pay a first for Najee with the anticipation that this offense is going to get a little bit more oiled up going into 2023.
Would you be nervous at all giving up a first-round draft pick for a guy that you're not going to be able to use this year down the stretch run if you are a contender? That's the one thing I would...
Like you would rather use that pick for somebody that can help you this year is what you're saying?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's what I would do.
I have a guy for the Nerder Show I think is a great buy at running back just for that case. It depends. Obviously it depends on your needs. Like, again, I was saying if I don't need him, I'm still buying. If you need him, obviously you're going to go a different direction. You're going to find a first. But then even then you probably have to give up a first. You can just go out and buy... I would just recommend going and get like Latavius Murray would be a really good buy. Who got a ton of carries, majority of all the carries there. I know with Mike Boone coming back here soon, he'll probably take away some of the third down work. But like Latavius Murray could be had.
I actually traded for him in a league where I'm contending 2/3. That's what I got. Latavius Murray.
2/3.
Yeah,
that's it. And that's I'd much rather pay that than a first. Like if I'm paying a first, I want a guy who's going to be there next year as well. And maybe Najee comes back this year. Jeff Wilson could probably had for maybe a late second. Or same thing, 2/3, and he can help your team out. What's nice is and why you wait for these running backs to trade until like right before the season or like when you really need them is because you just want to see who the running back's going to be as it is. It's why it's the most fluid position on your roster. It's why I hate trading for running backs. When I made a big trade for DeAndre Swift this offseason, I gave up 2 firsts for him. I immediately regretted it because like DeAndre Swift was one of my biggest fades this offseason. Like I just felt like he was overrated. I said everywhere I could say it. And then as soon as I got an opportunity to trade DeAndre Swift, like at the beginning of this year, like I immediately reflipped him and I got 2 firsts back for him. And then I traded those 2 firsts for Kyler Murray and then I tried to trade Kyler Murray.
Now you're trying to
So you're just going to keep trading players that you don't really like that much?
Yeah, I don't really care about me liking a player. I just like value. You know what I mean? Like I'm just always looking for value. Like I'm just trying to find good value. Like even if it's a position I don't need, if the value's right, I'm taking it because then now I have a surplus that lets me trade for something else that I really need. So like, it doesn't matter if I like the player or not. I'm just looking for value. I'm looking just for more bullets in a gun so I can take more shots at acquiring talent. That's all I'm trying to do. Because then if that player can give me a first, and then there's a player I do like in the first, now I get to flip that player for a first. Or getting that player now allows me to trade this player who people value more, right? Like, hey, I have Stephon Diggs, Jalen Waddle, Amari Cooper, and I'm on Ross Brown, I could trade Jamar Chase. I could trade Justin Jefferson. Like a lot of times, other guys you don't want to trade.
You'd be crazy to, but you could.
But with that kind of, it's that kind of arsenal that you could have that would, like, obviously Jalen Waddle get you a return as well, but like at least those players, you get whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like Jalen Waddle's not getting you whatever you want. Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson is getting you whatever you want. Those are the two players that will open the door in Superflex for quarterbacks. And most of my leagues now are Superflex. So like you need more
Minnesota shirt. I got you.
You need more talent to open those doors. It's the hardest position. It's the most, and that position's also gotten so shallow over these last couple of years as well. So you need as much arsenal as you can just to open that door to get in and even have a conversation for that. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
I took DeAndre Swift. I flipped him for multiple firsts. Then Kyler Murray had that dip. I bought Kyler Murray for 2 firsts, which I thought was tremendous value in a super flex league. So it's like just constantly, it's the same thing. We talked about the show, I think when Matt wasn't here, like I'm just constantly throwing trades out, like just constantly. And with the understanding that 90% of them are going to get, 95% of them are going to get denied or not even get a rebuttal. But that's okay. Like it's never going to stop me from being a Dynasty GM and trying to better my team, like every single week. You know, like it just, hey, I'm going to look at this. What are my needs? Who's got surplus? Let me throw a trade offer. Yep. And that's fine if you write back, hey, dude, this is even close for me. That's fine. That's fine. Because one
just
day I
throwing
will be
it
close.
out there. Yeah.
Am I a little bit closer? That's all that matters. It's getting cold out there. I need the body heat. So, yeah, Najee Harris, ab strain. Travis Etienne had his foot hurt. Good thing is, it wasn't the same foot he has Liz Frank injury on. So that's good news. He said he could have came back in the game.
Yeah, I don't think that there's much to worry about here. The only thing that you might, just a twinge of doubt is there a chance of that reoccurring? Could that get worse or not? They also just brought in Darrell Henderson, so they might look to spell Travis Etienne a little bit more than they would have. So you go from a guy that could have been, a top 8 running back for you down the stretch to maybe like end of RB1, which still good, but just maybe not quite as elite.
Right. And Hasty looked good also.
He played well. Yep.
In his kind of absence.
Darrell Henderson scares me as much as like somebody showed my front door with the sheet on going boo on Halloween. Like you're not a real ghost.
I get that, but it's more of the amount of touches. Is he going to take touches? I don't think he's necessarily great, but will he take touches?
Okay. That's fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're both straight line guys that are pretty explosive, so they might be able to do very similar things on the field, especially in the coach's eyes. So I get your point there that Darrell Henderson, in theory, could take away or just spell him more often than he has been being spelled, which at least dips his value just a little bit.
Right. It's like when James Robinson went to New York, I was like, oh, still a Michael Carter show. James Robinson doesn't scare me. He was inactive this week.
Yep. It was.
Yeah.
You mean the Boom Night show, right?
Oh, yeah. Zonovan Night.
Zonovan.
Ooh, look good.
I know.
Look good.
Guy I always liked in the, from the off-season tape review anyway.
Yeah, Zonovan Knight, Zaquandre White. I liked all those guys. ZWs. It's right up our
or ZKs.
ZK. I mean, whatever. However you want to spell night.
I can't spell. Barely talk.
What can I?
Crazy? It's a war of nutrition. You know what I mean?
Gotcha.
Allen Robinson, foot injury, having surgery, out for the year. Did you guys know he played for the Rams this year?
This is a tree. If a tree falls in the woods and no one's around to find it moment for me.
I have never seen a Super Bowl team implode. Quite to this level.
They had who was their draft pick? The Seahawks, right?
Yeah.
Who has it? The Seahawks have it?
Yeah. No. The Lions from the Stafford trade.
Oh yeah, so the Lions have it. They had like the 3rd pick in the draft.
Yes. Yeah.
And now Aaron Donald's got a high ankle sprain, so they might as well just shut him down for the year.
Stafford's already done. Yep. Cup's already gone. Like
their offensive line's torn apart. They got no running back.
They got rid of their best running back, who we just said isn't that good.
Their starting receivers are Ben Skowronek and Van Jefferson.
Yeah.
And then Tyler Higbee should feast. But their quarterback
even Tutu Atwell's getting some run.
I saw some other guy that
first catch.
Some other guy that I'd never seen before. They're like, oh yeah, that's his first catch in the NFL. I'm like, who the hell is this guy?
Oh my gosh.
It's always funny to me when you see the guys on the TV and you're like, who is? Like, I literally do this for like my job, to study these players. And then you see this guy have a catch and you're like,
who's that?
Who's that?
And I didn't even bother recognizing his name. I'm like, I don't even care because it's the Rams. He's just going to be gone next week. I don't give a crap.
It's a rhetorical question. I don't really want an answer.
I'm really curious what this team will look like next year. Is this like the beginning of the end? Or is it just like a blip on the radar and they're going to be like a playoff contender again next year?
I think it's the beginning of the end. All their players are old and have no draft capital because what's-his-face was like, F these picks.
He was.
I think it all hinges on Stafford's
elbow.
I really do. If he can come back healthy, they can get that offense rolling again, I think it'll be fine. I think the defensive stuff will kind of work itself out, just by getting healthy and I don't know, maybe a schematic change here or there because it's been looking
bad.
Dude, how good do the Lions feel, dude? They got the super high pick. They have a quarterback that literally wins just as many games as Stafford won there.
Yeah.
Like, Goff's been fine, totally fine there.
Yeah.
I mean, could they upgrade? Yeah, but good luck trying to do that. But now they have that pick from the
they might get a top 5 pick.
The Rams. Again. Like, that might. I would just build around Goff.
Are there any quarterbacks that are worth coming out?
We'll see. Will Levis?
We'll see.
Anthony Richardson?
I don't think he's even going to come out. I think he's going to go back to school.
Probably a good move.
Yeah, he's raw. Okay. Good athlete, but very raw.
CJ Stroud, he's coming out still?
Probably.
After that performance, I wouldn't.
Maybe.
Dude, if USC loses, Ohio State's they're going to be in the bowl playoffs. We'll get a revenge versus that team up north. That
would be nice.
That'd be sweet, sweet revenge. But are we even tough enough to beat them? So
I don't know.
Yep.
Well, I do not know.
We'll start taking that DeAndre Hopkins regiment, and we'll be just fine. or the Will Fuller regiment. We'll be just fine.
Jared and I were talking about this on the way to the Browns game this week. Perfect world for me. They figure out a way to give a ridiculous amount of money to Mike Vrabel, and they figure out how to get Mike Vrabel to come coach Ohio State, and then you make Brian Hartline the OC.
Oh,
he would never. I can't imagine a coach leaving the NFL for college.
Well, I can name one in that game that did it. Jim Harbaugh was literally in the Super Bowl with the Niners, and then went to Michigan.
Yeah, because he had no offers from the NFL.
Just saying.
And he was so bad with the 49ers.
He went to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but after that, it kind of fell apart. I'm just saying, if he was that good, why didn't he have any offers from the NFL?
I don't know if he had offers or not. I'm not.
And he interviewed the NFL team to get a raise from Michigan. I'm just saying, maybe.
That would be my perfect scenario. You figure out a way to pay him more money than he could ever imagine.
I would love Vrabel at House. Vrabel's such a good coach.
He's a great coach, and that's the tough mentality that we do not have.
Yeah, he gets so much, like,
no doubt.
Dude, Mike Vrabel, and like, if you're talking about, like, when you look at players that get so much, coaches that get so much out of their players, man, like Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, I'm not sure the Titans are even that good.
Jim Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, those are coaches that get what they squeeze that juice so hard.
Yeah.
Your tweet about number 14 at the goal line with the quarterback. Oh my gosh. I was screaming at the television during that. I'm like, dude, you really don't want to get a free lick on the quarterback right now? You're going to let him just waltz in right in front of you?
I couldn't
go up and
that.
Pop that guy.
I was sick to my stomach.
His mouthpiece should be at the 30-yard line.
Third down on the goal. All right, we can't keep talking Ohio State.
They play soft in big games.
I was so mad.
It is kind of gross, but yeah, whatever. I'd go, dude, let Brian Hartline coach the team. I'm okay with that. That's the best wide receiver.
As long as he can still recruit.
Yeah,
as long as he can still recruit while doing it.
More injuries. Michael Carter, he's got his ankle. He's day-to-day. Elijah Mitchell, kind of surprising here. Here's his MCL.
Michael Carter, low ankle sprain from what the coaches have said.
Yeah, so he might play this week.
That'd be awesome.
So that's why I'm just going to gloss over that. Yeah. Elijah Mitchell, MCL, comes back for a couple games.
Yeah.
Goes out for the season.
Yeah. Typical Niners running
6 to 8 weeks.
He came in week 1, got an injury, came back, week 10?
Played
operated for 2 games and done again. So that stinks, man.
Poor guy's made of glass.
He really is. And it's really always good. The MCL, it seems like, too, that he's always getting injured. So very tough because, I mean, he's, like you said, Rich, he's operated really well when he's in the game. He's looked really good. He just can't seem to stay healthy.
CMC hurt his knee a little bit there. So, what is it?
It's the patellar tendonitis that they're potentially worried about. No one's officially said
I was going to say, it's all the physical therapist type of guys that are kind of pinpointing these injuries, and they look at the wrapping and say, hey, based on where this is wrapped, it's probably this tendonitis.
Exactly. So that's the guess on that. But we're seeing load management with him. Right. We're seeing less touches than you would assume for somebody that just got a bunch of draft picks traded for him. And that might continue.
It might not, though, now that Elijah Mitchell's back out.
We'll see. Elijah Mitchell was
there that 1 week, he exploded.
Well, they even had Jordan Mason in there at the end of the game last week. I mean, that's That's how bad it was.
It's
Apparently,
load management time. I think if they're bringing him, it's load management time. I think if they're bringing him in, and Tevin Coleman is rumored to be coming back, right?
Potentially, yeah.
So,
and I think this is a team that's really looking at the playoffs, like the NFL playoffs. They want some running back to be healthy for them in the playoffs. I don't think they really care that much about the regular season, to be honest. And they look good. I mean, their defenses
They look
filthy.
really good.
So many playmakers on that offense for Jimmy G to just get the ball to. Like, they're going to be a tough team to beat. So I think they're just kind of doing what they need to do to get through the season. And then I think we'll see more work from CMC in the playoffs, but that doesn't help us as fantasy managers.
And if Debo also gets healthy, he could help supplement that.
Sure. Take some runs here and there.
A few weeks down the road. I don't think he's there yet from a health standpoint either.
I don't think so either.
So it might be a few weeks.
Good for your fantasy football playoffs, though. Get a good Debo bump at the rushing yards.
Exactly.
And Jimmy G is a great buy if you're looking for a cheap quarterback to buy at the end of the year. Like, they got a really favorable schedule that for the fantasy football playoffs, and that's what you need to be looking at right now too. Like one of my buys for running back, I was talking about, like, his fantasy football schedule for the playoffs is really, really good. So it's kind of like looking ahead. Hey, what running back has the easiest running back schedule? What wide receiver has the easiest wide receiver schedule? What quarterback has the easiest quarterback schedule? And kind of look at those numbers and, like, help those kind of facilitate your trades here for the playoff run as well. Because there's a guy, like, we're talking about when Josh Jacobs here in a little bit, like, I tweeted out before the show, like, Josh Jacobs is probably a really good sell, definitely not a contender coming off a high-end week. His playoff schedule is absolutely brutal. When we talk about, I'll go over the games he has, but they're all, like, two of them are New England's number 1 against the run. Eagles are, like, number 5. I got to look at who he's playing, but it's brutal. So let's get back into some news, some NFL news here, shall we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Biggest news of the week is the Cleveland Browns are getting Deshaun Watson back. So what does this mean for the offense? And to me, this is when we were leaving the game on Sunday, Garrett, we were talking. I was like, man, it's weird to see a franchise that's about to completely alter their team to a different team week 11 this season. Like, take a big step forward. Like, they're about to get a franchise quarterback week 12 of the NFL season. And that's what the Browns are doing. They're getting an elite quarterback. We're talking about somebody that's won at every single level he's ever played at. You know, this is a guy who won a national championship against Alabama, put Clemson, you didn't put him back on the map, but he elevated Clemson, won at high school, came in as a rookie, played really, really well. You're talking about somebody came in and led his position in points per game as a rookie in 2017. He was top 6. He was 5.46 in that category as a points per game basis as a fantasy football quarterback. He's somebody with a very high passer rating, top 3 since he's come into the league. When he was in 2020, last time he was on the field, which was about almost 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, excuse me, he led the NFL in passing yards, yards per attempt, had a career high in completion percentage, career high in passer rating, had his lowest interception rate. And
that was even without his best weapon, DeAndre Hopkins, who had just gotten traded.
Yeah. Will Fuller didn't play for 5 games. DeAndre Hopkins got traded. No one even on that team during that record-setting year had more than 50 targets except for Brandon Cooks. His weapons were Will Fuller, who missed multiple games, Brandon Cooks, Darren Fells, Kiki Kuti, Randall Cobb.
Forgot about that guy.
David Johnson, like Farrell Brown, who's out on the Browns. So, I mean, he had a way different team. Now he's got Nick Chubb. He's got Kareem Hunt. He's got a better offensive line. He's got David Njoku. He's got Amari Cooper. He's got Donovan Peoples-Jones. He's got David Bell should get elevated. But his deep ball and his deep ball accuracy is so nice. And having Amari Cooper and definitely having Donovan Peoples-Jones, it's going to definitely change the dynamic of their fantasy outlook. And right now they've been playing really well. Jacoby Brissett, somebody who's come in and he's been, according to PFF, he's been 8th overall through the first 11 weeks of the season, according to PFF. Like, Brissett's played pretty solid. And that's what he is. He's just a solid quarterback, right? That could come in and kind of give you the record. He's a 500 quarterback, usually right around there. And now they're having an all-pro kind of quarterback come in. So it's going to really change. It's going to open things up for Nick Chubb. The passing game's going to open up. And you can expect a boost. I think we've all been pleasantly surprised about Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yep.
We mentioned last year that Donovan Peoples-Jones was a great buy. Yeah. We also mentioned Harrison Bryant expecting David Njoku to leave. He didn't end up leaving. Got the extension. So Donovan Peoples-Jones should really, like, if you're looking for a receiver to buy, somebody's probably going to get you anywhere from 9 to 15 points per game. Donovan Peoples-Jones would probably be that guy, even though he just scored his first touchdown since week 1 this past week. But you would expect the touchdowns.
He was the guy I mentioned last week, as the guy to go try to get before Watson gets here. So I did mention him as well. I feel very similar.
Yeah. His deep ball, the touchdowns should increase. I mean, when you're talking about Jacoby Brissett, who's done really, really well, is averaging 11 yards per attempt. And he's got like a 3.6 touchdown per attempt on his passes. Where in Houston, Watson averaged 12.5 yards per vertical attempt, and he had 9.4% touchdown rate. So both of those should increase not only their yards and production, but their touchdown production as well, which is where the bread and butter is when it comes to all fantasy football production. Sure. So for me, with Deshaun Watson coming back, if you've held on to for these last couple of years, that's exciting because you got to finally put him in your lineup. Like I have multiple Deshaun Watson shares. I've sat on them. I'm finally. Literally today, I went in and set my lineups, and I was able to put them in my lineup. I was like, it's been so long. You know what I mean? And it's going to – I don't know what to expect because it's going to be his first time coming back in almost 2 years. So it's kind of hard to expect what he's going to do. But he's coming back versus Houston. He's got to be hungry. This is a game he wants to light it up with. He hasn't been injured. Right, so it's not like he's missed all this time for injury. Sure. So he's been able to work on his game. He's been practicing with the team now for weeks. What do you guys think about Deshaun Watson now coming back, and where does he sit amongst your dynasty overall quarterbacks? Because for me, he's probably right around like 5, right around there. Currently, with the anticipation he'd go up, like guys like Joe Burrow ahead of him. And then obviously the other 3, but like I personally would rather have Deshaun Watson than Kyler Murray.
From a fantasy perspective, I could definitely see that in a longevity standpoint. I think I have him probably around 10, and that's because he hasn't been in the lineup for 2 years. I mean, you know what I mean? I had to put other guys that were doing things.
But today, I'm talking about like sure. Now, like knowing he's going to start on Sunday.
I'm going to wait and see on that. I'm not sure what to expect out of him. I don't know what to expect from a mental standpoint. I don't know how would you handle that? I mean, going to all these different, like, especially starting off at the place where they just got rid of you, and there's going to be women in a suite that accused you of doing things there at the game and present. Like there's a potential that every single stadium it could get very ugly every single week for this guy. And I just don't know how he's mentally going to handle that. So I'm not going to throw him up there until I start seeing him performing at somewhere where close to where I've seen him in the past. Sure. And that's where I land as far as where his value lands. I'm waiting to see, because just based off of him not playing for 2 years, I don't know. And then you add all this other stuff on, who the hell knows what you're going to get out of this guy. So I'm at a wait and see type of thing. That's me.
He was a top 5 quarterback every year he played.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, I'm not at all trying to dispute what he did in the past. It's what are we getting now?
Yeah, I had a hard time figuring out exactly where to rank him, because even though quarterback isn't as deep as it once was, there's a lot of really good quarterbacks at the top. So that's where it made it really difficult for me. So I literally just updated my quarterback rankings today. So I have Josh Allen at 1, Patrick Mahomes at 2, Justin Herbert at 3. I have Jalen Hurts at 4, Joe Burrow at 5, Lamar Jackson at 6. And this is where I was like trying to figure out, okay, where would I put Deshaun now? Because like 7 was the earliest I felt comfortable doing it. I ended up still having Fields and Prescott ahead of him. So I have him at 9, but I still have Watson ahead of Murray and Tua. So that's kind of where I ended up.
I mean, Fields, you get the youth. Mm-hmm. Doesn't have the weapons there to really make me, because I mean, Watson's athletic enough to make me.
I think I would have that. Tua above him, but Fields I think would be below him for me still.
Yeah, Fields would definitely be below him for me.
That's kind of where I see that. I mean, sure. So I have him at 10, and I probably have a couple guys.
What about Murray? Would you have Murray ahead of him, or would you have Watson?
I probably do have Murray right now, but I don't feel that way.
And
as far as talent,
the only other one that would like maybe be in that range would be Trevor Lawrence.
That's fair. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is definitely in that range too. But I think if I was doing a super flex startup today and say like you could only take quarterback, you would take Justin Fields ahead of Deshaun Watson today in a super flex startup?
Today. after we see him a couple weeks, that could definitely change. But, I mean, we saw him put up literally record-breaking numbers just on the ground with no weapons.
Yeah.
Imagine once he gets weapons in an offensive line.
Yeah, I mean.
So now that I'm actually looking at him, I have him at 12.
Okay.
And I do have Fields above him.
Well, you said
And
you haven't
Trevor.
moved him because he hasn't played, though,
Right.
either.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, he's in all reality, he is going to start moving up everybody's rankings.
For
so
sure.
It's kind of like, and I think what you could do now is
Or down.
Or down.
Tell me there's a chance.
Maybe there's a buy window there.
What about so I think pretty safely you would still have Allen, Mahomes, and Herbert ahead of him.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What about that next tier? Hurts, Burrow, Lamar Jackson. Where would he fit in with those guys?
I think like him and Hurts to me are pretty close. I would let my homerism take me in there, and I would take Watson over Hurts.
Okay.
But I've completely flipped on Hurts where like he was like, oh, this is going to work out long term. Like he's a long term answer there. Like he's grown so much. I was wrong about Jalen Hurts.
Yeah,
like,
I have Hurts at 5.
Yeah,
I've come all the way. Full
He did the Josh Allen like glow up.
Yeah.
Where he went from like this not super accurate guy to you can clearly tell he put in the work, he put in the time, and he's a polished passer now as well as a ridiculously good runner.
He's made the list for me of people I was dead wrong about.
Yep.
Like DK Metcalf is on that list. Jalen Hurts is on that list. I'm not putting Derrick Henry on that list because he was bad.
I knew you weren't going to.
He was bad for 3 years. He was bad for 3 years.
Never going to give it up.
That's a long time. That's
Never
a long
gonna give it
time.
up.
That's a long time. Because if I'm going to leave Derrick Henry was really good for 3 years, but he's also not good for 3 years. So I'm just saying. I won't put him on that list. But
All right, fair.
he's like, I'll mention Derrick Henry
Is it honorable mention?
with an asterisk. But you know what I mean? Besides that, I mean, everybody else that we've hated on, people told us that we're dead wrong about, like guys like Chase Claypool and these guys have one good game. They're like, oh, in your face, nerds. And you're like, okay, what this is Dynasty long-term value.
Right.
Like,
It's not just
same
one
thing.
week.
We're sitting there talking about James Robinson. Like, dude, you got to sell James Robinson. You got to sell him. People are like, oh, and he had a big week. And you're like, oh, in your face, Rich. And I'm like, oh, that's just 1 week. He does it next week. And I'm like, listen, dude, that's fine. Maybe I'm wrong. I wasn't wrong. But Jalen Hurts dead
But
wrong.
he did have 2.5 really good seasons.
Healthy scratch.
Yeah, just
Healthy
almost
scratch.
as good as Derrick Henry. Now he's a healthy scratch. So like Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts is right in that mix. I would definitely take Burrow ahead of him. But again, Watson has that Russian upside there. So like, but today I would take Burrow ahead of him.
Okay.
Where you land him and Tua?
I would take him ahead of Tua, but like Tua's right there because of the
Lamar?
weapons around him.
We're actually going to talk about Lamar a little
We're
bit.
gonna talk about Lamar, and it's like I've had Lamar as my number 4 quarterback overall.
Yeah.
But they're like now that tweets going out, like calling people like names on Twitter.
Wait, what happened?
Dude, he called somebody like he swore at somebody. Like somebody's like, "Oh, Lamar Jackson, just let him." Walk,
It was like
blah,
a
blah.
borderline gay slur, basically.
Yeah.
Like
That's unfortunate.
Yeah.
like he didn't delete it till like for days.
Oh.
But like if somebody's like,
I missed that.
somebody's like, "Oh, Lamar, just let him walk. Don't pay this guy money. Spend the money elsewhere." He's like, "Oh, you've never even sniffed a field, blah blah blah," like and swore at him. Yeah, like a slur almost, and he left it up. Like he didn't even delete it. A lot. I mean, but at the same time, like I feel like if Lamar went anywhere that wasn't the Ravens, like he might even be able to do better. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, his first 3 weeks with Rashad Bateman there and healthy, like the offense all going,
cooking.
he was doing awesome. I think he had like 9 or 10 touchdowns.
Like, what if Lamar Jackson was on the Dolphins?
He would look pretty good.
He'd be the number 1 overall Dynasty quarterback over Josh Allen.
He might be.
Because he was just throwing his little jumpers to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle.
Nice creative offense, yeah.
So, like, I don't... listen, when I'm taking a player in the first round of a Dynasty Superflex startup, like, I am looking for the least amount of, like, red flags as possible. And you're right. I moved Lamar Jackson, like, way up in my rankings. And now, like, I'm like literally, like, would I rather have Tua or Lamar Jackson?
He's still
Which is crazy to think
he's
about.
still doing really well. He's like the number 5 quarterback or something. It's not like...
Oh, yeah. Right now, he's totally fine.
But since week 4, it's not been good. He had a real nice cushion there in the beginning.
The last couple of weeks has been pretty bad.
Bad.
And like, what is the long term? Like, we don't know. Like, the beauty of like Mahomes and like Josh Allen, like you have that long term contract.
They have the contracts.
Herbert and Burrow are getting that long term contract. Tua's going to get the long term contract most likely now because Mike McDaniels really likes him. And he's really grown with him as well. It just shows you what good coaching can do. You know, Dable did it. Dable's kind of maybe helped Danny Dimes kind of take a turn a little bit there for the better.
Maybe.
So for Lamar Jackson and Deshaun Watson, again, I think I'll let my homerism take effect here. I will always have when I'm close to somebody, if it's a Brown, I will always lean Browns.
Sure.
Like always.
That'll break the tie.
So I'll take Deshaun Watson over Lamar Jackson, which is crazy, but like there's just something about me that's just not sitting like I'm a little bit worried about Lamar Jackson.
Sure.
Just a little bit. Because
we'll talk more about it in the Nerd Herd episode.
And then you're talking about Kyler Murray. I literally offered today a trade to Izzy Alcafas of Dynasty Trade Calculator. I offered him Kyler Murray for Deshaun Watson. Right? I'm like, oh, he's going to accept this. It's Kyler Murray. He just wrote me back. He's like, I hate Kyler Murray. And I wrote back, Me too. I just wrote me too. And I sent him a picture of a piece of poo, and it said Kyler Murray on top. He's like, exactly. I'm like, damn, of course you have. Of course the guy who has Deshaun Watson, who I want to trade Kyler Murray for straight up, hates
the
Kyler
one
Murray.
guy that hates Kyler Murray. Yep.
And of course I'm the other guy. And I'm like, oh man, can you trade Deshaun Watson to somebody else?
Dang it.
So it's weird. I mean, like Tua's in that mix now. You said Trevor Lawrence had a good game there. I'm really excited to see Trevor Lawrence next year with Doug Peterson in year 2 with Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, and Calvin Ridley. Yeah. That's gonna be really nice there. And then maybe they draft like Michael Mayer.
Say whoever they draft too. I mean, that's only gonna help.
They got ETN, so that's they can focus on defense. So like Trevor Lawrence is up there, but then it starts
or offensive line. I would love for them to get another.
Justin Fields as well would be up there, but not. I still would take Watson ahead of Fields just because I'm gonna use a couple of those really fantastic games of his legs. Like that's a small window.
Sure,
nothing against Fields. Oh, yeah. I still don't even know who his weapons are going to be.
Yeah, no, we have no idea.
I know Watson has Amari Cooper. I know he has David Njoku. I know he has Nick Chubb. I know he has a good offensive line. You know, like that helps. And it helps. Same thing with Tua. You know, we're not talking about Tua in this realm if he doesn't have Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill.
Right.
So they literally make it that much of a difference.
100%. Yes.
So it's interesting.
Well,
big fan.
But before we get to our next segment, let's talk real quickly about Prediction Strike. That's what we're doing this whole time. We're just trying to predict what's going to happen with these guys, what they're going to do in the future. You can do the exact same thing on Prediction Strike. And in fact, you can look at it just like you would a stock market. You look at these players, these guys are buys. These are ones that I got to get on my squad. These guys are sells. I got to get them off the squad. I got to get what I can for them. You can do that on Prediction Strike. You can go to their website, or better yet, go to their app. Beautiful app, easy to use. That's where I do everything for Prediction Strike. I do it all right on the app. And you can use promo code Dynasty, and you will get a free share of a player. That's promo code Dynasty. And guys, on top of that, we mentioned it early in the show, we are close to prospect season. That is the best time to start getting those little nuggets, that little information on those players before everybody gets familiar with them, before everybody knows where they're going to be at. It's perfect time for that. Go there, Prediction Strike, promo code Dynasty, get your free share of a player today. All right, Rich, did you hear about this Mike White guy?
I heard about him.
Heard a little bit. Did you hear he had 3 touchdowns this week?
Allegedly.
Does he keep this job? What do you think? What are we doing with him? What are we doing with Zach Wilson? Where are we at with good old Mike White?
Yeah, Mike White's interesting because he comes in, he looks really good. He goes in, throws for 3 touchdowns. Right now, on a points per game basis, he's the 4th highest scoring quarterback.
Oh my God!
We're worried about Deshaun Watson
behind Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts.
Then
Mike White.
Amazing.
On that points per, guess how many points? So on a points per game basis, he's averaging 24.8 points per game.
Crushing it.
Guess how many points he scored last week?
24.8.
Wow, you are
good.
Hey man, I'm good at guessing at the very least.
I mean, listen, he's looked like the best quarterback the Jets have had. You know, and Joe Flacco held his own early on.
I was surprised he didn't start, honestly. When I heard that Mike White was the starter.
We were discussing this last week. Like, we just assumed Flacco was going to be the guy. And then when Mike White came out, it was like, buh?
I was very, because he was the backup early in the season, and he played well.
Right.
But clearly they're seeing something in Mike White to elevate him to this spot. And so far, he's making him look smart.
Yeah, absolutely. He looked fantastic and better than the way that he looked. Obviously, they won. It's the pieces around him that perform so much better, and that they can actually be viable. You know what I mean? Garrett Wilson. There was an Elijah Moore sighting,
talking to his football.
Yeah, exactly. So it was very nice to see. I mean, the running game, even without
Brees Hall and Michael Carter.
Carter out of the game. Zonovan looked good as well. So it was nice just to see that. The Jets are like this quiet team that I kind of like inside of me like root for to do well, even though I know they kind of stink.
Yeah, well, they're kind of like the Browns in that sense, and the Lions, and those teams that are always like the punching bags of the NFL.
Exactly. That's the way to put it. Not that they stink, because they don't stink, but they're tough. They lose a lot of close games, and it's nice to see them kind of turn it around and do something good.
That's why I've been such a big fan of the Chargers as my other team, because they always just lose in miserable fashion.
They do.
That's my kind of football right there.
See, I was all about the Bills for a while, but they're getting a little cocky for my taste.
They're getting too good.
So the thing, I was always a Bills supporter because when the Browns left in '94, only 2 teams voted no on it. It was the Steelers and the Bills. That's why I always said, people were like, oh, you don't like the Ravens. You hate the Ravens more than you hate the Steelers. I'm like,
100%.
I was like, I respect the Steelers. I don't respect the Ravens. I was like, and then there's the Bills. I was like, dude, that's what the Browns would do: go to 4 straight Super Bowls and lose all 4.
Yeah. I would love to. I would love for that to be true.
Love for it to happen too. So for Mike White, I mean, you mentioned he's already thrown more touchdowns to Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore combined than any other quarterback on the team. A very good completion percentage. He averaged almost 79% of his completion, 78.6. He averaged 11.3 yards per attempt. He's got a really easy schedule coming up. He plays Minnesota next week, and the Vikings are bad against, I mentioned before, they're really bad against the pass, dead last when it comes to receivers and fantasy football quarterbacks. Then they have, for the rest of the season, I think like 4 out of their 5 opponents right around there are like bottom half of the league when it comes to stopping quarterbacks. So when I said Jimmy G's a really good buy for like a stretch, so is Mike White if you want to buy somebody for the cheap, because Zach Wilson's probably not getting his job back the rest of this year. Who knows if he gets his job back? I would imagine he would for next year at some point to get an opportunity at least.
Maybe, but who knows? I mean, this is a team that clearly thinks that they can compete. Because if not, they would just let Zach Wilson keep starting and developing and whatever, and this team thinks they can win. And if Mike White dares takes them to the playoffs, which right now they are, I mean, they're on the fast track to the playoffs. I mean, how do you take a guy that just led your team to the playoffs and say like, we're going to put this other guy back? Like, that's hard to do.
Mark Sanchez took on the back-to-back NFC championships, and he was a turd.
Well,
I'm not saying Mike White's good.
No. That's what exactly.
And I'm not saying he's
say.
a turd. I'm just saying Mark Sanchez was a turd.
He can still be replaced, but I don't know that it's going back to Zach Wilson. To your point, Garrett, I just don't know that you can go backwards. I think he's just looked too much like a failure to go back to him. To bring in a guy that was clearly a backup, and he came in and shined in the same offense. I think he's done there in New York personally. Yeah, especially in that market.
He's at least done for this season.
I think he's done.
Most likely, but yeah.
It seemed like he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way there too, with the whole like, I didn't let the team down comment and all that too. And
did you speaking of completely off topic, remember when I showed you that video at the game of the defensive lineman Russell Wilson?
Yeah.
Did you guys hear why?
No. I never heard what he actually said.
The coach had to talk to him and said, "Hey Russ, it might not be a good idea to say it's Russell Wilson time when we're down 17-3.
Nuh-uh.
I swear, this is a quote. This is a quote from the team reporter.
From a verified source?
From a verified source. For the team reporter.
He spoke in the third person and said, it's Russell Wilson time?
Apparently, like he goes, when he's on the bench and stuff, he goes, it's Russell Wilson time. He's like, it rubs the teammates the wrong way. And he's like, and then Hackett said that he understood that he won't do it anymore. And that's why the defensive player got in his face. Because they're down 17-3, and he's like, it's Russell Wilson time.
Dude heard it and went off on him. Dude,
I've said this now for the last couple weeks. Like, there's not a bigger douche in the NFL.
That dude's got a screw loose or something.
Have you seen his Have you seen his TikToks and stuff? You don't think? Of course he has a screw loose. Guy, I heard reports that they literally think. I read another report. I think it could have been Ben Albright, who's more tied into the Broncos than anybody.
Sure.
That said that Russ's problem is like he thinks him and Ciara are Jay-Z and Beyonce. That's what he thinks. Like he thinks he's this super duper star. Mm-hmm. And because remember the report came out of Seattle, like all the Seattle players are talking smack about him now. And the report was like the reason why he asked for the trade and why there's so much negativity there, I said this before in the podcast, was because he wanted to be like Aaron Rodgers. He wanted to be like Pat Mahomes.
Sure.
And they said, hey, open up more. And they wouldn't. And he's like, that's why I wanted to trade. He's like, I could do more. I could be better. And they're like, no, you can't, bro. This is like what you're doing. Like, we're winning Super Bowls this way. And he's like, no. It's always about Russ. You know what I mean? But literally he said it's Russell Wilson time.
Oh my!
And that's why the defensive player got in his face.
That's bad.
That's almost as cringe as the commercials, with the blonde. I'm rich, bitch, or like whatever. Do you remember the sideline reporter that did like the commercials for the Infinities or something like that? And she's like, "Oh, I'm rich now," or something like that.
Aaron Andrews.
Thank you, Aaron Andrews.
Those car commercials were really cringy.
Terrible and cringy, but Russell Wilson also.
He's super cringy.
Cringe.
Dude. Like, you use the word douche, you use cringy, whatever you want to use.
That's just
nerd.
Not a Dynasty nerd.
Not a Dynasty nerd.
No, Dynasty nerds are cool. He's like a nerd.
Yeah.
Like
No,
in the bad sense.
I don't think that's the correct term.
Yeah, probably not.
No,
because being nerdy could be cool because you're smart about other things.
Yeah, he just seems real.
He's a capital DB. That's what he is.
There
That's
you
not
go.
a defensive back, people. But Mike,
Moving to safety.
I forgot. I had to tell you. I forgot. Like I was showing you that video. And I was like, I wonder what they're arguing about. And I saw that report today.
He looked
and I was
angry.
like,
that defensive lineman looked angry.
and I wasn't even shocked that he's in a. It's Russell Wilson. Can you imagine like the podcast is about to start? And I'm sitting there going, and you guys are like sitting next to me. And I'm like,
time.
it's Rich. Like you guys are my co-hosts. I'm literally like, it's Rich Dotson time. Like to my. Oh, okay.
Welcome.
You guys are like texting each other on the side, like, why does Rich do that every week? He's such a
kinda
DB. Like, he's not defensive back either. Oh,
Man.
yeah.
All right. Well, Zach Wilson, maybe not quite that bad as far as teammate
Oh,
goes.
nobody's bad. He bangs.
I don't
like
even
his
remember
mom's
where we
friends.
got. I couldn't even remember where we were at before that.
I'm just trying to bring us back.
Mike White.
Totally.
But when you score 3 points in a game and you lose 10-3, and the reporter asks you, do you feel like you let the team down today?
No, absolutely not.
Apparently, there were a lot of players that were very upset
mad
about that.
yeah.
Whereas you have other quarterbacks like Dak Prescott, like that same week, Justin Fields, like apologized to all of his teammates, even though they put up like 30 some points and he's like rushing for 1 billion yards.
And like, don't apologize, Justin. And
Yeah.
like,
And they were all for him because he's like first one in, last one out, works hard about the team. It's just so. All of that to be said.
And those were like individual apologies. He went to every person.
Each player, like a little over the top.
Yeah.
But
That's a
okay,
leader,
I
though.
respect
That's
it.
a leader.
Right.
Like,
I respect
hey, dude,
it.
put the sauce on me. I'll do better next week. Like, dude, no, you did enough. No, I'll do better next week. That's a leader.
Yep.
That's like somebody on your team, and Zach Wilson's out here like banging her mom's best friend. Like, what are you doing here?
That did unite the team for a little bit.
It did.
They did have some
Preseason.
T-shirts and stuff, but eventually you got to win games.
Right.
That's not happening. So I think he will get another shot to start, but I don't think it's for the Jets.
I don't think it's this season.
No, I think it's next year for a different team.
I
I think he's the next Carolina Panthers quarterback.
No, they have no more draft. They have no second round picks to give.
I'm just kidding.
I mean, tons of people need a quarterback.
They're-
I mean,
they're-
the Commanders could take a
It was
gamble
just
on
too
them.
easy.
You know, like it's weird. So, well, I guess we'll see. But for right now, it's a Mike White season.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, obviously, that was the result they were looking for, and they got it. So,
Go.
Next.
You want to talk about it? Or you want me to?
What are we talking about? Oh, the next subject?
Yeah.
I thought you had a sleeper buy of the week.
Oh, yeah, I forgot all about that. I was too busy sleeping.
Oh, okay. You know, sleeper.
Sleeper buy of the week for me. Remember, when we're buying players, they're not always the obvious ones. You got to buy before they get hot. This guy's already starting to get a little bit hot, but it's not in the way that you would expect. Often we're looking for the guys that have the 100-yard game and the touchdown and stuff. But if you look at the targets, there's a guy that we liked pretty unanimously, I think, in the offseason. Hasn't quite lived up to expectations yet.
What position?
Wide receiver.
targets.
But he has had 6 targets and 5 receptions in both of the last 2 games.
Does he play in Florida?
No, he plays in Kansas City with Pat Mahomes. Sky Moore. Sky Moore has had 6 targets and 5 receptions in the past 2 games. Now, they haven't necessarily translated to much as far as, there's no touchdowns out of it, no crazy yardage, but we're starting to see him slowly be more and more involved in the offense. I think this trend continues. They took him in the 2nd round for a reason. They like him as a player. He's a good young asset. Remember, this was a player that originally was a defensive back that converted to wide receiver, so he's still fairly young at the position. He just looks very advanced with some of the things he's doing. I think better days are ahead. I think you had to use a late 1st, early 2nd round pick to get him. in your drafts this past year. I think you could get him right now for an early second, and I would easily do that.
I would easily do that too.
I would easily do that 3.
Yeah, those are my favorite kind of targets in Dynasty, like the first-round picks that were first-round picks that didn't do anything in a rookie year, and everybody's like, oh, and you just offer them a high second-round pick, and we're like, okay, yeah, I'll take that.
Somebody else that right around the same time we started to see this trend, and then he blew up, Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm not saying the same thing's going to happen, but we see these late-season surges. Christian Watson, his started a few weeks earlier than that. We see this at times out of these young rookie players where all of a sudden it just clicks and then they're gone. And good luck getting them at this point. Good luck trying to get Christian Watson at this point. You're going to have to overpay. Good luck trying to get Amon-Ra St. Brown. You're going to have to overpay.
Dude.
If you want the next one that could be, he might not. He might flame out. But for an early second, I think it's more than worth it.
And, Kadarius Toney's leg might come with that box from Italy that says Fragile from the Christmas Story because that thing is very sensitive.
And really, none of the other guys there have separated themselves throughout the season at all. I mean, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, same guy that we saw in Green Bay. He's just very inconsistent.
We'll have 3 games a year of 2 touchdowns and won't do anything else the rest of the year.
Absolutely. And Juju Smith he's just a guy.
That's a guy who doesn't make the list of guys we were wrong about.
Nope, he sure does.
Looked like he was for a second.
I know, his rookie year, like, oh, in your face, nerds.
Just
and we're
kidding.
like, oh, we'll see how it works out.
Yeah.
Ever since then, poo sandwich.
There it is.
So Kadarius Toney is the only serious threat, I think, to Sky Moore, and his hamstring can never stay healthy. So it's all good.
And then for 2023, Sky Moore's the guy. I love the Sky Moore buy.
Yep,
so
absolutely.
reminders, where are we at on time?
Probably not great, but that's okay.
55 minutes. All right, so let's get about 10 minutes into these next 2 guys real quick.
Let's do it.
Each. All right, Rhamondre Stevenson has not had less than 12.5 PPR points in a game since week 2. He also had 20 or more PPR points in 5 games this season. Should he be ranked as a Dynasty running back 1?
I mean, he's very close. To me, no, but I think he's very close. And the reason why is I can never trust Bill Belichick long-term with any sort of running back workload. I mean, it seems like Rhamondre is kind of breaking that mold because he's the big back and he's catching passes, so there's not really a big-time reason for Bill Belichick to pull him off the field. So maybe we'll get some long-term value out of this guy. But for this season, I think you can safely rank him that way for the rest of the season. And I guess that's good enough, right?
I actually currently have him as a running back 1 in Dynasty. Now, it is running back 12, so I mean, it is right on the very cusp. But you look at a guy that's his age, that has the workload that he's already had and the potential workload in the future. Will he get bumped down once we get next year's rookie class? Yeah, he'll be bumped down out of RB1 range. But right now, I have him just behind Nick Chubb and Travis Etienne. They're at 10 and 11. And I have him just ahead of J.K. Dobbins, Austin Eckler, and Najee Harris. Would you rather any of those 3 guys ahead of Rhamondre Stevenson?
All of the above.
You would want all 3 above Rhamondre?
All 3 of them.
Okay.
Definitely Austin Eckler.
He's going to be 29 next year.
He's a patch catcher. I think their dynasty lifespan's the same. So my answer to that question is hell to the no. Personally, 1, he's a New England running back. 2, and you're talking about somebody who liked Rhamondre Stevenson probably the most amongst all 3 of us when we did his rookie profile. When I was scouting him, I was like, this is a guy who I like. I think if he gets a chance, he could be a solid runner. He just looks like a hashtag 2-3 year window to its core. I know this is like pretty much year 1. Yes, last year doesn't count. So I think Rhamondre can come in and be a solid running back next year too. And getting 2 years out of a running back, it's pretty good. Like that's a win. But as a dynasty running back 1, with the way free agency is looking in his class, like Matt said, you can't trust a New England running back at all. There's an unbelievable amount of free agents this year at the running back position, so they can easily sign somebody. They already did sign. They spent too much money on 2 tight ends, right? So they could easily bring another running back in here at a run game.
They also spent 2 picks this year on running backs. Kevin Harris and Pierre Strong. They're on the roster as well. They're kind of developing behind him in the wings, waiting in the wings.
And then on top of that, this is the deepest running back class we've seen possibly when we're all done said and done ever.
It's definitely one of the deepest, absolutely.
So it's one of the deepest running back classes we've seen, the deepest free agent running back class we've seen. a running back that I view as a hashtag 2 to 3 year window guy. So I know Austin Eckler is just a PPR guy, and he's a little bit older.
To be fair, I do also have, like I said, once the next year's class comes in here, he'll probably get bumped out of RB1 range.
I mean,
so I'm not counting next year's class right now. I'm just counting who we have at the moment.
Like, I understand, like, he's running back 8 in a year in PPR leagues. Like, I understand that.
He's been fantastic.
He's been fantastic. But, like, we see these, I mean, Tony Pollard's running back 10 overall. You know what I mean? Like, there's just other guys that, like I said, that like look at that fantasy behind him. Let me name the guys that are ahead of him. But Rhamondre, like Joe Mixon. I'd rather have Joe Mixon. I'd rather have Dalvin Cook. I'd rather have.
I wouldn't rather have Dalvin Cook. I have Cook at 16. I do have Mixon ahead of him though.
And if you took Rhamondre and Dalvin Cook, like they're close. Same thing. Same window for me. You know what I mean? Kenneth Walker, I would take ahead of him easily.
I have Walker ahead.
I understand if you took him ahead of a Kamara, I can understand that for sure.
I have him ahead of Kamara.
Miles Sanders is interesting.
I have him ahead of Miles Sanders.
But I can listen to that. I would take Travis Etienne ahead of him.
He's Etienne's one spot
I would take Najee Harris ahead of him. I would take Jonathan Taylor ahead of him. I would take Breece Hall ahead of him. I would take DeAndre Swift ahead of him. And that says a lot because DeAndre Swift has not been good.
So basically, you would have him at 16 because you're naming a lot of guys that I already had ahead of him because I have him at 12.
Probably right there. And like Damian here, like he's on I look at it like Damian Pierce and him are pretty close. He just catches more passes.
I have Pierce at 18.
I would take him ahead of Damian Pierce.
Here's one thing that made me perk up though. When I was watching the Thanksgiving game, one of the comments really struck a chord with me. They were talking Chris Collinsworth. And Al Michaels were talking about how they were talking with Bill Belichick. And they said, one thing that really surprised us was when Bill Belichick started talking about Rhamondre Stevenson. He said he is the most reliable guy that we have on the team. And he started talking about him and then making comparisons to stuff that Brady was doing and different things like that. So once you have the buy-in from Bill Belichick like that, we're already seeing the passing game workload. His consistency this year has been incredible. I mean, absolutely incredible. Like I mentioned in the question, 5 games over 20 points, hasn't scored less than 12.5 since week 2. Like really, really good stuff. I think that there's enough well-roundedness and even just the receiving back. I mean, we saw James White be right around this range for a long time on just passing work, no running work at all. I think Stevenson's still going to get a decent amount of running work as well.
So you would give a first for Stevenson?
Easily. I would easily give a late first for Rhamondre Stevenson.
I actually would also. I would give a first term. And it's...
As a contender.
As a contender, I was going to say, because the rest of the year, I think I'm definitely getting that. And then I'm probably going to get at least another year out of that guy. And then we'll see. I mean, if he does truly have that much, Bill Belichick has that much respect for him as far as his reliability, it does set up perfectly for like the next James White, because I feel like that's how James White got his role. Mm-hmm. He was reliable. Bill Belichick knew he was going to do his job, and he could mix him in enough between the tackles that he could throw him on the field, and he could do either or. Sure. You know, like most likely he's going to be catching a pass, but he would still run him up the middle occasionally as well. And it's almost the opposite. Like you could run him all day up the middle, and then you're still dumping passes off to him. It's like it's a perfect scenario, I think, if he does in fact have that much faith in him.
Even James White was a small window. Lawrence Maroney was a small window. Corey Dillon
Lawrence
was a
Maroney
small
didn't even have
window.
a window, did he? I mean,
White's window was pretty big. It was 4 or 5 seasons?
Yeah, but for efficiency wise, for fantasy football, it was only really like 2.
Okay.
I could be wrong on this.
Okay.
But I thought I looked into it. Same thing, because I wanted to do something on James White before the season.
Uh-huh.
So we're talking about like late July.
He also dealt with a lot of injuries, so that could be the reason.
So it was
why.
but it was like late July, early August this year. Like I started diving in James White, because again, we didn't know how it was going to go. We expected James White to be potentially that third down running back who got hurt. And I started diving in. I was like, wow, James White only had 2 years. I believe, if I remember this correctly, like James White only had like 2 years of like solid production.
That makes sense, because I do now that
very
I'm thinking
high
back on it.
Like it was
like a legit RB1. But yeah, I do remember a lot of injuries with him. That was always his issue.
So for me, it's just like, and you're right. Like, you know, if Bill Belichick loves him with Mac Jones, could this work out? Could we get 2 more years? I said hashtag 2 to 3 years. So we could easily get 2 more years. And then he's worth a first if he drive you to playoffs this year and you get 2 more years.
Absolutely.
That's a home run first round pick given up all day. it just makes me nervous, like in New England, like Matt said before. That's the whole thing, man. Like,
Sure.
it just makes me nervous. Like, Damian Harris is still really young, like it just, they could draft. This Jordan Beck class is so deep, they could easily draft another guy in the 3rd round because they just keep drafting guys, or a 4th round.
They could.
He could be a quality running back because this class is so deep, you know what I mean? Like
100%.
James White 2018 and 2019 were his 2 big years.
Yeah, so 2 years. I was right. And then
he had other, noticeable stat years, but those were the ones that he had over 100 targets. He must have been playing
ridiculous
every single game. Yeah. Yep.
So, but like, if you think about it, you go back to going back to what like Bill's had his team, like even like the Corey Dillon and stuff like that, is like it's always been these like really short term,
absolutely,
like guys like in the windows.
I think he knows that is a short term position in the NFL. He's been around long enough to kind of burn and churn through these guys, and
it fits his contract perfectly because finishes out this year. He's got 4 years on his rookie deal. He would get 2 more after this year, and then they could cut ties with him and do whatever. But 2.5 years for me, for a late first, especially if it pushes me over the top this year, which with the lack of reliability we have at running back right now, he's one of the most reliable guys.
And that's why I'm okay giving a first if you're a contender, is getting you through this year, getting a very, very consistent piece. You're going to get between 15 and 20-something points every single week.
But wouldn't you rather just give up like a couple of thirds for Latavius Murray?
No.
I guess not. Maybe not. He's giving you running back 1 numbers.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like with a guy like Murray, he played great this week, but it's the Broncos. I have no trust in that offense.
I was going to say I just traded for Latavius Murray. I didn't start him this week. I got him as kind of running back depth down the stretch, and it's going to be. I'm not going to start him until I need to, and because you could get 5 points from him, or you can get 17 or 18 points from Latavius Murray, whereas you're just getting 15 to 20 something with Rhamondre.
Yeah, those are kind of trades. Though sometimes I just don't like making I don't like giving up first for running backs. I don't know for sure.
I get that.
What's going on? So speaking of running backs, Josh Jacobs goes over 300 yards this week. Dominated. Currently number 1 running back 1 overall. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option, so probably a good chance he gets franchised.
I think they're going to bring him back.
And I mean, for us, I know.
Samir.
For us,
I know,
like
right?
to talk like if you've listened to this show,
had a couple good runs this week too.
I know.
he did. If you've listened to the show for a long time and going back to where Josh Jacobs came out, Josh Jacobs was our 1-1 coming out. We absolutely loved him. At no point throughout the process of playing fantasy have any of us ever fallen off Josh Jacobs.
Nope.
All we've questioned is like, why don't they use him more in the passing game, and why don't they use him? Like that was our
one of
biggest
his
question.
best attributes coming out of college.
They used him this week in the passing game.
Me loving Zamir was because they didn't pick up the 5th-year option. They
Right.
drafted a running back. I was connecting dots like any sane person I think would.
Yeah.
And then they just go and run the heck out of him. He looks fantastic, and now we're off, right?
And Zamir gets 2 carries a game.
Yeah. If
2
that.
carries a game. I mean, so like we've always been Josh Jacobs fans, and do they franchise him? I'd imagine they franchise him. Maybe they sign him to a long-term contract and kill Zamir White, possibly. But again, there's a lot of unknowns here. So for me, if I'm not a legit contender, like this is the perfect time to sell Josh Jacobs, right? Like 26 years old, about to go in that 2nd contract, coming off an all-time high career week. Like not even an all-time career high, all-time fantasy football running back finish high. And on top of that, he's got a really tough fantasy football schedule for the playoffs. Really tough. Week 1 of the playoffs, week 15, he plays New England. Number 1 against the fantasy football running back overall. 2nd week, they play Pittsburgh. 14 overall versus the run. So, but they also just got TJ Watt back. So that changes things a little bit as well. So that you'd imagine they play a little bit better. And then for your championship game, they play San Francisco, number 5 overall versus the fantasy football running back. So
rough.
If you have Josh Jacobs, obviously you're a contender, you keep him. But understand he's got a very tough road ahead for your playoffs. It might be even interested, like if you are a contender, can you flip Josh Jacobs for like Rhamondre Stevenson and a first? Right? Can you get that? And that's what I'm talking about. Like, oh, that's trading for nothing. Even if you're a contender, I would be interested because I'm always trying to move running backs when they're at peak value. And you can argue right now is a peak value for Josh Jacobs, right? Running back 1 overall.
Pretty simple.
Coming off like career
48-point game.
That helps.
Yeah.
Youth, about to get a contract, right? Like, so these are like prime like this is like the prime for me. If I'm like doing like a dynasty lecture, like this is what you're always waiting for when it comes to a running back, right? It couldn't be the
blow
most
up
perfect
week right before the deadline.
Yes. About to go into a second contract, 26 years old, best game of his career. Tough match. You're like, if I'm writing a book on when to sell running backs, this is the most number one example of when you sell running backs, right? Like, can you get Breece Hall?
This is like a pie in the sky thing that you're trying to make up in that scenario, but it's actually coming true.
It's actually come true,
yeah,
fruition.
absolutely.
So, like, I don't know how you guys feel about
100%.
it. Like,
if I could get Breece Hall, I would do it all day and twice on
and
Sunday.
I love Josh Jacobs. Like, this is
Good
not,
player.
There's no hate about, like, I've always been a fan, always will be. I know we talked about, like, dude, I know this is only 1 year at Alabama, but this kid is unbelievable. You know what I mean? So the talent's there. No matter where he goes, whether he stays in Raiders, I think he's going to be quality running back for the next couple of years. But, like, again, if I get 23 first and Rhamondre Stevenson, I'm doing it. If I get 23 first and another running back to help me along the way, I'm doing it. If I can get Breece Hall
all day,
I'm doing it and taking the loss. Even I'm a contender. Like, I'm like, I'll go trade for Rhamondre, and then I'll go trade for, like, if I do the flip, I'm getting my first for Rhamondre. I'll trade for Latavius. I'll go trade for Alvin Kamara.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'll make a move.
He'll figure it out if you can get Breece.
So, big fan. Very happy for him. I don't know if he's going to change in my ranks that much because, again, he's about to go into a second contract for me.
Right. He's in that spot where he's no longer creeping up. He's going to start going down.
There's literally nowhere to go from here but down.
Right.
So, it's nowhere else.
And that's in rankings and ADP, all sorts.
Depressing.
Because he's at the pinnacle. I mean, he really is.
Well, I got something to tell everybody as well before we go.
All right.
We are currently, so we had a Black Friday and Cyber Monday deal for the Nerd Herd. And, you know, if you're new to the show, you got to get dynastynerds.com and you got to see all the tools we have to offer. We just had a massive film room update, like 30, 40 games we added to the Dynasty.
Oh, it was over
room.
100.
It was over 100. Oh, I'm sorry. Over 100 games we added.
It was a lot.
Whoa.
To the film room. And this is where it gets real hot and heavy. We start adding a ton of games. So, the perfect time to get into the Dynasty Nerds film room, right? Like, this is the time you do it. Watch all the tape. You can watch every player that's coming out in the draft, their entire game, every snap they play. You can watch the entire game in like 5 minutes because it's only the snaps they play. You get a Dynasty GM, which we're about to launch the Dynasty GM 2.0 here in about the next 4 weeks. It looks unbelievable. We have a tool going to the Dynasty GM that's going to change that no other Dynasty tool lets you do. Like, it's going to let, when we say this thing is going to be customizable, essentially to make the view Dynasty from your eyes, that's what it's going to be. It's going to be a tool for the Dynasty player, not just for Dynasty nerds, but for you and how you view Dynasty. That's where Dynasty GM 2.0 is going. And then there you have the Trade Finder. You have the League Analyzer, which is my favorite, player shares, rankings. You have so much. It's all going to an app as well. So come January 1st, we should have the Dynasty Nerds app.
I can't wait for that.
We have the Nerd Score, which you guys are starting working on.
Yep.
And so much more. We use every subscription that we have to just build more stuff. And we have all these things in the pipeline that for the next 3 years to build. And we have our biggest promo yet. It's 25% off our membership using Holiday 25. That's Holiday 25, HOLIDAY 25. You're going to get 25% off of your Nerd Herd membership. And once you get in, you're locked in there for that price. And I think we're going to run this for the rest of the year because now we're getting ready for the off season. We want to get everybody encouraged here, get a chance to get in the film room for a good price. You can buy this monthly and pay less than a cup of coffee a month now at 25% off, or you can buy the yearly package, which is the best bang for your buck.
Yeah, just get the yearly.
25% off, Holiday 25. Check it out. Not only right now, if everything stayed the same, I feel like we have some of the best tools on the market today. But I feel like come January 1st, we're about to take a massive step forward. And we have all the tools to help you. I said the film room is, when you wonder where we watch our tape in our film room. I know everybody from CBS to every other Dynasty site, they when I see them at the expo, they're always like, dude, thank you for the film room. I use your film room. Yep. I like your film room better than any other access I have to tape because it's the best.
That's how I first started talking with Danny Kelly from The Ringer, was because he uses our film room.
Yeah.
It's why.
It's awesome. You'd be surprised at the people that are on TV that you watch that use our film room to watch their rookie tape. It's that good. And we invest a lot into it to make sure it's that good, and it's worth every dollar. So that's literally worth the cup of coffee there for the couple months by itself. But check it out. We have a lot of cool tools. Holiday 25. Join the Nerd Herd. It's the coolest place to be in Dynasty. And you get a bonus podcast, which we're about to jump into, which is really important. We do our rookie breakdowns because we do half and half. People are like, why do half and half? I'm like, dude, we got a lot of rookies to cover.
Yeah.
We'd never get through it.
We would have to start January 1.
I was gonna say we'd have to start now.
Yeah.
To get through
start the rookies, and we're only doing them on the free show.
It's like, dude, you know how expensive developers are? These tools aren't cheap. And to
cheap.
maintain them, we need 10,000 more subscriptions.
So get on, nerders.
Just to build more cool tools and stuff. So
True statement.
come on in. We appreciate you. We'll be back next week talking more Dynasty Fantasy Football.
Adios.